Now, I come to another subject, namely the Food Grains Enquiry Committee report. On the last occasion when I was speaking in this house on the food debate, I gave some indication of the reaction of the government to certain important recommendations of the Food Grains Enquiry Committee. So far as the operational recommendations are concerned, in which I include the zonal restrictions, limitation on credit, procurement, operations of fair price shops, etc., we have been mostly acting upon them and we have accepted the recommendations of the Food Grains Enquiry Committee. We have further strengthened our working in those directions. There were other recommendations which I may call as organizational. The Food Grains Enquiry Committee has recommended the establishment of a price stabilization board. This board was to consist of the representatives of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Railways, the Planning Commission, and the Reserve Bank with the chairman of the status of a secretary. The Food Grains Enquiry Committee was of the opinion that only a high-level committee as proposed, which is properly integrated into the machinery of decisions within the government on economic questions, will be able to deal effectively with the problem of price stabilization. The board was not only to deal with the prices of food but also of the manufactured goods so that a parity might be established between the two. The question of price policy is a question of supreme importance for any government. A distinguished British administrator had said that the Indian budget was a gamble in the rains. Obviously, the idea was that all the prices and the financial policies and decisions of the government depend upon production of food grains and other agricultural products because it was the production that determined the prices. The position has considerably changed since then. We are not so much dependent upon our revenues from the land revenue, but nonetheless, in the Indian situation, it is a fact that the economic policy, as also the financial policy of the government, depends primarily on the prices of food grains. If the prices of food grains go up, other prices also go up. The budgetary position is affected by it, and all our financial policies are affected by it. We gave a very respectful thought to the recommendation of the Food Grains Enquiry Committee, and I am grateful to its chairman and other members for the service that they have done to the country and for the assistance which they have rendered to government through their valuable report. But unfortunately, we could not fully agree with those recommendations because no government can divest itself of the primary function of determining the economic and financial policies, and if this matter were to be left to a board consisting of eminent and able officials, the overall policy, economic and financial, would have been controlled by these officials. No government can divest itself of determining the economic and financial policies. Therefore, we felt that while the principle enunciated by the Food Grains Inquiry Committee that there must be a parity between them was good and desirable thing, a policy recommendation which we accepted so far as the organizational part of it was concerned, as to the body that should implement that policy, we could not agree with them. Our decision, therefore, has been that the Cabinet and its Economic Committee will keep a constant vigilance on the food prices and also do its best to establish a parity between the food, rices, and the prices of other agricultural products and industrial prices. This is not a very easy thing, and no one can say that an absolute parity can be established, but this is the effort that we shall make. At the official level, it has been decided that a board composed of the personnel as recommended by the Food Grains Inquiry Committee would be there together with the representatives of the Reserve Bank of India and the Planning Commission. They will also keep a constant watch, but they will only advise the government and will not take any final decision. The final decision will be that of the government, but the board will be advising the government from time to time, and a duty has been imposed upon them to keep constant vigilance and make recommendations from time to time. Sir, we had to think over and over again before we could decide on this variation, because we had the highest respect for the recommendations of the Food Grains Inquiry Committee, and we did not mean any disrespect to the Food Grains Inquiry Committee, but we felt ourselves duty bound to accept that recommendation with the variation which I have pointed out. Sir, another important recommendation of the Food Grains Inquiry Committee was the establishment of a food grains stabilization organization, that is the executive body.